hopefully we can get it going right now. So to make an introduction, uh, we will start about the studio. Oracle Documaker Studio 11.5 is the version we are going to have a brief overview into today. Uh, Oracle Documaker is a document automation platform previously started out by Skyware Corporation, where we had the legacy versions starting out with 9.x versions and 10.x versions. And later on, when we moved to the 11.x versions, that is when we have started having the studio, where it is an integrated platform where you can develop and publish documents, particularly pertaining to the life insurance industry where it is widely used. So we can use the studio to acquire, create, manage, and present forms in both interactive, real-time, and batch mode. So some advantages we see are we can reduce the time spent on error correction, and shorten the future document preparation by having pre-built templates. So forms which are similar in nature, we can build them with headers and footers and create templates so that our time spent in forms development is reduced.
So Akhil, just a question over here,
yes.
What are different tools available in market? Is it Documaker the only one which helps in creating this?
No, we have similar tools available. There are multiple tools. So particularly if you're looking into the life insurance industry, Documaker is the market leader in that. Oracle's Documaker. If there are tools like Whitney Bose's Doc1, EMC's Expression, IBM's FileNet, and ahead we have multiple tools like this.
Okay.
So those are the few advantages. And if you look at the key features, we have many conversion tools available inside Documaker, where you can convert Word documents into Documaker specific files, and also we can convert graphics, any PNG or JPG files into Documaker specific logos, and it supports multiple channel output, including 14 different types of output, and templates, as we discussed earlier, where it enables each development of forms. And we have pre-built, pre-packaged libraries where it's easy to promote forms between different environments and different servers. And it also integrates seamlessly with multiple upstream systems, where one of the upstream systems is provided by Document Oracle itself. It's called Oracle Insurance Policy Admin System, and similarly we have multiple customized systems depending on different clients and insurance industries. And it primarily supports two kinds of input. It is either the batch file or the XML file. So we will dwell into the major files, or we'll first look into the synopsis or training overview, what we will be discussing over the next few weeks. First one is the forms overview, like how are the forms segregated depending on the complexity of the forms. And next one is the lines of business, how we are going to classify these forms into different lines of business and include them in our studio. And next one is Documaker overview itself. What is Documaker? How do we use Documaker for forms development and forms promotion? And some of the terminology is used in Documaker. And we look into how the environment is set up for Documaker, how should we set it up, how we're going to build these forms in Microsoft Windows 32-bit OS. And we look into the design considerations, how we are going to design these forms, maximizing the efficiency. And we look into how the data mapping configuration is done. Oracle Documaker is primarily a rule-based engine, so we will be mostly using all the rules built in Documaker to map these data, how we are going to integrate data between the XML or the batch file and into the output, be it PDF or text or any other versions. And we'll look into some of the different kinds of sections, forms. So primarily we'll be classifying them into static or dynamic. depending on the content of the form. If the form is completely static and we don't have any variable data, then we can use the conversion utility present in Documaker, where we can directly convert or import an RTF document into a FAT file. And dynamic forms can also be done, barring the variable mapping. And once the form is imported, we can do the variable mapping. That can be done for simple dynamic forms. For the more complex forms, we'll have a different approach of development. And we'll also be discussing about triggers. And triggers can be both manual triggers and dial triggers. And some of the field mapping and the rules. So dial scripts are again used when the inbuilt rules, or when we have to satisfy certain business scenarios for which we have to do some script coding. It can also be done using dial scripting. And another thing is library management, how we're going to manage the library, how we're going to package the components, how we're going to promote it across different environments. And we'll be looking at the development workflow and development standards. How are we going to start with our requirements while getting the Word document? I assume the Word document will be the input file we always receive from the business. So how are we going to classify these forms? How are we going to have the development workflow, and how it is finally published? And as mentioned earlier, how are the categories of forms being done? So we will be primarily classifying the forms into static and dynamic forms, and again based on the complexity of the forms, we'll be further dividing them into simple, medium, and complex. And this is the form type specific development workflow. And finally, we'll be looking into across how the forms are used. We already have an inbuilt forms library. If additional forms are to be used, depending on the customization of the business requirement, we will be looking into how to edit the FXR files and how to add customized forms into it. So this is a brief overview about the training plan, what we're going to look into. And just briefly discuss about the components. Any doubts so far? Any discussions?
Can you just show us like how Documaker tool looks like?
Sure. I will be showing that in a minute. Okay. And I'll just quickly go through the different kind of components we will be using through the Documaker. Primarily, we'll be discussing on 4 different components. If you're looking at the forms development, it will be BDF components, GRP components, for and FAT file. So, on a development perspective, we will be primarily focusing on the for file and FAT file. On the environment setup perspective, we will be focusing on the BDF file and the GRP file. The BDF file will be a base definition file, a business definition file, where we will be including defining the different various lines of business. And the actual lines of business itself is a GRP file. When I mean the line of business, insurance industry is classified into term and variable, and again, at issue, post issue, all these are lines of business for each insurance industry. So depending on the client, we will be classifying them to different lines of business, and we'll be including them in the GRP file. And each line of business has multiple forms, and those are the for files. So they will be called as FOR. And each for file will be made up of sections. So those sections are called as FAT files, FAP. So, and apart from that, we have other components which we will be discussing later on when we delve deep into the session. And
Akhil,
yes.
Can you show the actual Documaker tool?
Sorry?
Can you? I just want to see from the component.
See the tool.
Yeah. You said
I'm showing you. Yes, I'm showing it to you right now. This is the Documaker tool from what we are looking at. I have both 2 versions installed in this, so I'll look into which version shall get into. So if you go to help and about Documaker Studio, you'll know which version we are having it. This is currently Documaker 12.1, so I assume we need round.5. So I'll go to help Documaker Studio. So round.5 is the version. So this is the studio, and I have opened a workspace here, and this is how your studio looks like. And if you look into the top ribbon, we have the workspace, we have libraries. Workspace is from where you open the environment, and library, which has all the components present for your development perspective. And these are the ones we discussed so far: forms and sections. Forms are your profiles, where we have all the forms defined, and sections are your components, where we have all the content. So multiple sections comprises a form. Apart from that, we can develop these sections using paragraph lists or paragraphs or text areas and multiple components. So these are different types of components associated with Documaker. And templates are used for faster generation. We have multiple forms which has common header and footer. We can create a common template, and from then on we can develop these forms. So it is where the templates come across, and we have styles. And triggers are again where we can use either manual triggers or direct triggers depending on the business requirement, and the procedure where the signal is passed in the XML file. And apart from that, we have data dictionaries, wherein if we have common fields which can be stored across data dictionary. And these are the multiple settings files. And the other important tool we'll be using is a conversion utility if we have primarily more number of static forms involved in the industry. And so those static forms can always be done using the conversion utility, where we will be converting the RTF file into a .fat file and subsequently into a .for file. So, and again, we have a test scenario, and some test scenarios where we can do a unit testing of the forms inside Documaker. Apart from this, we can also do a testing outside Documaker using a batch file, wherein we can produce PDFs. So we can do testing both ways, and finally we have the print stream analyzer. So this is your major outlook. On the left side, we'll be having all the components, open applications, and this is your workspace library. And here you can search for the components. On the right side, we have all the components available in the library. And this is how basically your studio looks like. I'll just show you the various forms also. So this is how basically a form looks like. If you develop a form and you're going to promote it further, this is how basically a form is going to look like, including logos, headers. So primarily a form is classified into header and body and footer. So once you add, so these are the ones inside the headers are the sections, where we will develop the sections and we'll add these sections into the form. And we will be deciding how to add these sections. Do we have to do a copy on overflow? Do we have to add these sections just on the header? Or should we add these sections in the header or in the body? How do we add triggers to it? How do we include subforms to it? What is the use of subform? And how do we add manual? When you see a green lightning bolt, it means it's a trigger. So the green lightning bolt can be used for both manual triggers and dial triggers. So how do we use manual triggers? How do we use dial triggers? How do we set up dial libraries? Will be discussed. And these are your sections. Again, sections can again be static sections or dynamic sections. On the right side, once you right click and you can either give edit or view. Once you give edit, the section is checked out and nobody else can use the section apart from you. So once you have checked in the component, it can be used by others. So if you just want to view the section, you just right click and go view. So this is how the section looks like if you want to make. So this is purely a static section. So inside sections, we have multiple options to size the components. We can decide the font of the section. We can include rules. Again, inside sections also we can include rules. The Documaker is primarily, as I told, a rule-based engine. So wherever we're going to do a mapping, wherever a section is added to a form, we will be using rules. So we will be deciding, yeah.
Can grow and shrink and can span pages rule. Why are we using that rule?
In this option, it's not required. It's a static option. So, but if you are having a variable component, we will be using a can grow and shrink. So if you have, suppose if you have a variable component that includes a variable inside a static form. Okay. Then if you want the variable form to integrate, variable content to integrate with your form, we will use the can grow and shrink option.
Then can span pages?
Can span pages again to decide how we are going to further increase the page. In the sense, when you have variable component that is going to extend beyond the current page, and you have to decide that you want the variable content to split across the pages. Then we give can span pages.
Okay.
So all the red marks you see are variables. So this is an example of a variable section where we have variables across in this. So the various variables are included here. So these are all the address set up here. So we will discuss about what kind of rules and what kind of section rules, what kind of field rules we'll be using for all these things. And getting into just having a quick look into the base definition. So this, your single workspace will have single PDF file. Unless otherwise you require to have multiple PDF files, we'll always prefer for a single PDF file. And inside a PDF file, we'll be defining your lines of business. So you have one line of business here. So once each line of business opens up to one GRP file. So this is your GRP file, which will have multiple form lists. And each form list will have multiple forms. And these are various forms defined, depending on each line of business. So this is an overview of the various components and the various rules involved in Documaker. So going forward, we will be discussing on how these various components are developed, how we're going to integrate this data with respect to XML, and how the final forms are published. So any questions so far?
I think we are good to stop here, right, Amir?
Yeah, it should.
Yeah. Subhashini, any questions from your side?
No questions from my side.
Okay. So, Priya will get back to you after discussing it internally.
Okay, Nalini.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Akhil. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.